The Austin Allegro, the 1970s everyman car that every man had, and there's one still alive and it's still here today. Well, I mean, this one has had a refurbishment. In fact, it's been restored. Austin Allegro 1.3 Super. Now, the Allegro has suffered more than its fair share of people not being very nice about it, but it does make me wonder, if it wasn't any good, why did so many people buy it in the first place? The Allegro did come in production in 1972, or it might have been 1973, and it was full of new things. It was a revolutionary car. It was much more modern looking than most of its competition. The one thing that people forget is how well these drive, because it's hydrogas setup taken straight from the Austin 1100 and 1300 that this car actually replaced. Whilst other cars were dealing with rusty leaf springs and those other springs that would snap, this one had these spheres of gassy stuff that would make sure that your suspension stayed supple and made sure that your ride was indeed very comfortable. But that was definitely the idea, because this is based, it's a bit like having a big Mini. The Mini could outhandle anything else because of its short wheelbase and the no overhang and the way its suspension was set up, and it was practical. And we're not talking about the Mini, but we are talking about the Mini's big brother's son. The Mini was basically a post-wartime hero that showed that a small car could be practical, and then its brother did the same kind of thing. But then the son came along that was called Gerard, and he used to wear a sweatshirt over his neck like that and tie them over like that instead of actually putting it on, and the image wasn't quite what many people I don't know why though. I mean, this is 70s suburban Britain right here. I personally think the car looks rather noble and rather cute and rather interesting, and certainly very, very distinctive. The Allegro didn't get many favours by the journalists at the time or even afterwards, and its image is still one of an aggro car, an all aggro, a car that doesn't work, a car that's no good, a car that's embarrassing, all of these kind of things. But that's partly based on people just believing somebody else's misfortune or somebody else's story, and often not even a particularly good or interesting story. They say it was more aerodynamic going backwards than forwards. Well, that's a possibility, but then again, that's probably the same for many cars of this era and many cars of today. Because actually, look at it this way, there is quite a trend for cars of this shape now that look like that, with a kind of upright front end and then quite a steep A-pillar, and then there's kind of slopey back there. That there was even a 1990s sitcom called The Estate Agents that used an Allegro that just went backwards everywhere because it was the only gear that worked. That's a really funny sitcom actually. What of the styling? But I like it. I think it's cute. I like it. What else have I got to say? How about this? Yes, you wouldn't believe it, but I fit in the back of this rather easily indeed. And there's headroom. The C-pillar's slightly intrusive on my view, but this is comfortable. There's loads of room in here. There's more room in here than you'd expect of a much newer car that was a lot bigger. And this bench seat, that is so soft and comfortable. What a joyous place to sit. Anyway, I don't really sit in the back when I drive. I sit in the front because I'm a man. The back is for passengers. What exactly do we have inside this car? Well, we have somewhere to store things. We have somewhere to... in the 70s times, people used to have those funny little white sticks that they stick in their mouths and set fire to. And this here is called an ashtray. And so you'd flick the ash into there so as not to get it on the carpet. As you can see, the dashboard is very, very much uncluttered. It's got a nice big glove box, and we've got a lighter, of course, and we've got a couple of switches that they don't have that kind of modern tactile feel to them, but they do have that old style working feel to them. You can sometimes find, like in more modern cars, these lovely kind of coated plastic things, a lovely tactile feel to them, but what's the point if it doesn't work? You want something that does work, and these ones do work, and I prefer that. These stalks that look really spindly, but they have a purposeful feel to them. Same on this side with the lights, and then the beeper. The beeper there. In fact, unless you are using it as a beeper, you are using it incorrectly. It's not a horn, it's a beeper. You're supposed to do it twice. Like that, you see? Nice, simple instrument display with fuel level, of course. That doesn't come on until the engine's on. And a speedometer. And this is reading 48,000 miles. It rather optimistically goes up to 120 miles per hour. And then this one here, known as the target dial. It doesn't do anything besides give you something to talk about, because it doesn't do anything. And then a temperature gauge. Nice, very useful. And then this tiny little thing there. What would you put there? Coins? Coins? You could possibly have coins there. Yeah. Above my head is the headroom, the roof lining, made of this plastic perforated material that doesn't sag. Yeah. Let's do some door shut sounds. So we've already heard the rear door. Rather purposeful, don't you think? Let's do the passenger door. Nice. That sounds really rather sturdy, in fact. Underneath the bonnet we find the beating heart of the car, the A-series engine, a well-used engine indeed. This is indeed the 1.3 variant, painted in green, and it sounds very nice indeed, sounds very smooth. We also have lots and lots of room under this bonnet for fixing things, should you need to. And a great big gap down there that cats in the middle of the night or the day can climb up and have themselves a nice little sleeping area. A little bed there would be good for them, actually. If I owned an Allegro, the first thing I would do every morning before I started it up would be just to make sure there's nothing living underneath the bonnet there. What you would probably be expecting now is a whole load of facts and figures about the A-series engine. So here goes. Oh, good, yeah. Right, that's enough of that. Do you know what I've just done now? I have opened up the boot. That means there's enough room for me to climb inside there. Well, there would be if I had some help. You see, I reckon I could just about get in there, and then I get most of my body in, and then my mates over there could just basically use sticks and other blunt instruments to force bits of my body that won't go in there naturally in there. Besides it not being a hatchback, it is still a decent sized boot, as you can see. I'm not sure how many litres just offhand, but quite a few. That's a nice firm sounding close. I always enjoy the way the A-series engine starts. It just starts and wants to go. I love that sound of the whiny gearbox they always have on these. So straight away I barely got going, and it's making me smile. What a lovely characterful sound it has. And there's much more of a sensation of having to do some work, because when I feel where the actual individual gears are, and it just doesn't just put your foot down and just suddenly shoot off. But then it is actually quite easy to drive. And the steering wheel feels huge. It feels like I'm driving a boat. The engine feels nice and punchy actually. It's not going to go fast, but it's going to just pull along in the way that you need it to drive a car. That's all you need really, unless you want it to be fast. Then go and buy an Audi. So the other thing I've noticed already so far is an awful lot of people looking at this car, because everybody remembers the Allegro, and some people might be thinking, gosh, are they still around? I thought they'd all disappeared. Well, they haven't. In fact, there's loads of them around Halifax. Oh, look at that there, a Capri. And a typical Ford driver not acknowledging another classic car coming the other way. I'm going to go for fourth gear. Actually, I was going to go for fifth gear, but there isn't one. So I best not try that. On the corner, quite enthusiastic. He's happy to go around corners. What a happy little car. Is that why you like them? Because they're always so happy?
Yes.
They're like owning a dog. They are though, aren't they? You know, like everybody has a car. Some people like snakes, lizards, all these kind of things. But if you like dogs, have an Allegro, because it's much more like it. It is an easy car to drive actually. It feels, well, like an easy car to drive. It's very nice. Everything seems to work quite precisely. And I would like to take this on a road trip somewhere. I'm just not sure where. Barnsley, I think. Yeah. Do Allegros work in Barnsley, or is it just Halifax? The visibility at the front is very, very good indeed. The bulkhead's quite high up, and the windscreen's quite short. But because the A pillars are very slim, you can just basically see everywhere. B pillar's also slim. C pillar's very thick. But the rear screen is actually very low down, so that makes it very easy to see out. The wipers do obscure the view ever so slightly, but they wouldn't obscure the view quite as much as having no wipers and not being able to wipe away the rain. We've got the AA badge on the front there. Now quite often old cars like this that have an AA badge and an RAC badge, which means that they don't know who to call out when they break down. And if you really like this car, there's good news, because it's up for sale. Over to you, Andy.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
Oh. The Allegro does have a history file. Straight away you can see the spheres have all been regassed, reconditioned by Hydrogas and Hydroelastic Services Limited to the tune of £560, which is one of the main things with Allegros that people, you know, want doing, because it's the only way to get the suspension back to as it should be. And you can just see that there's a lot of general maintenance and things gone into it over time. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you enjoying yourself? Do you know what, Andy? I'm not sure this is the original colour. That looks to me more like Rover Marine Blue from an undeterminate year.
I've already told you that. No, the car originally was pageant blue, like a lot of the Allegros were. So in 2016 the car was fully restored, was resprayed fully in this colour, Rover Marine Blue. Now, it hasn't just been a respray as in on the outside. It really is. Let's look hard and you won't find the original colour. It's up inside the boot. It's been done properly.
Yeah, it really has, hasn't it?
Really, the full shell has been resprayed in the colour.
Right, so obviously this car's for sale, isn't it, Andy?
Yes.
Yeah, is there anything that the new buyer needs to do with it particularly?
No, I mean, we've pretty much been over everything. The car has been totally restored. Any bit of welding that needed to be done has been done. Both sides have been fully resprayed. The inside's been retrimmed. The hydroelastic suspension spheres have been regassed. It's just
ready to go.
Ready to go, yeah.
Ready to go home with me. Thanks, mate. The windscreen wipers are ever so slightly intrusive.
Yep.
What? I'm recording.
Oh, sorry.
The windscreen wipers, just like Andy, are ever so slightly intrusive. Son come along, he was called Gerard, and wore a jumper around his...